Usually Ashlyn hits that button, but she is just got home. So welcome back everyone to the Huddle, your weekly thing where we help you with forward progress in your career. Except for last week, things happen and but we got him back this week. So we have Mr. David Zach on. You want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, David, and let us know how you got to where you're at today.
Sure, sure. Thanks for having me and welcome everybody. I'd like to start by saying Happy Veterans Day to all my fellow veterans out there. So, thank you for your service. So my own journey in flooring, I basically got into flooring back in the late 1980s. Um, prior to that, after coming out of the military, I worked in a lab doing materials testing. So that kind of got me involved in testing materials using Instron machines, things that are used in, the same labs that test carpeting and other flooring materials, laminates and vinyls and whatnot. So I ran some of those that test equipment for a few years in the early 80s. And after that, I went to work for Chrysler Corporation. I was in facilities management for with them for about 12 years in Michigan. I've since moved out to Phoenix, Arizona, so we got some nice warm weather out here today. But after Chrysler, I opened a carpet and upholstery cleaning business. So it was a ChemDry franchise, and that kind of married me into the flooring industry. Um, I ran, I had 5 trucks in Michigan, and I had a couple more, another franchise out in Las Vegas. And so that was a good business for me. Um, in 1991, I decided that I needed to have more knowledge in the flooring industry and beyond just my carpet cleaning experience. So I decided to get certified as a carpet inspector. So I went through the IICRC in 1991. I got certified as an inspector. I didn't do a whole lot of inspections at that time, but I had the certification, more knowledge. It kind of helped my cleaning business. And then late 90s, I was still working for Chrysler Corporation, still a certified inspector, but decided to leave Chrysler, sold my cleaning business, and I went into full-time inspecting in the early 2000s. So since the early 2000s, I've done somewhere in the area of 17,000 inspections. I've written a couple books in the industry on the carpet side of the business. And in 2012, I launched flooredetective.com, which is used by about 3,000 subscribers, including over 2,000 flooring dealers. We have manufacturers such as Mohawk, Southwind, Mulliken, Tri-West, which is a distributor, and over 300 inspectors that use the software we've developed. So that's kind of been my journey into flooring. Just this past year, we also, in addition to Floor Detective, we launched a photo app through the Google Play and Apple Store. And we're going to be marketing that to inspectors and installers for photo documentation of your work, your before, during, and after. It's especially important for installers to have good documentation so that, should a claim ever arise, you basically cover yourself with the necessary documentation and photography you need to, make sure that you can protect yourself from any unwarranted claims.
Yeah, and it's
So
not
there you go.
just
That's the long version.
it's not just against claims, it's sometimes dealing with some of these contractors as well, right? We've been in that boat before where they're like, why are you charging for this? What do you mean you did this? And it's like, man, I've got all the proof here. And, when you put that proof in front of them, they they can't say, oh, no, you didn't do that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Even things just as simple as taking photographs of your adhesive cans and your boxes of material, the end labels and whatnot, any defective material that you have. So the photo documentation, I think, is an area that uh, could greatly be improved upon by installers throughout the industry. I think there's not enough of that type of documentation going on.
Are
And I
you
think that's something I'd really like to see improve from an installer standpoint.
are you referring to the production dates and batch dates or batch codes that are on the material as far as taking the pictures of that?
Yeah, all that stuff is important, even the instructions on the can. For let's say an adhesive, just as an example, that instruction on the can wraps around the can. So you might have to take, 3 or 4 pictures to capture it all. Just to have that to protect yourself, to make sure also that you're doing things in accordance with the guidelines. That's one of the biggest things, from an inspector standpoint. When we're looking at a claim, the vast majority of the claims we're comparing the work that was done, we're looking at what the complaint is, and we're comparing that with the installation guidelines or industry standards. So, for the installers to have that documentation, that information, and to certainly make sure that they're following that stuff, because a lot of the things, many of the things we look at directly correlate with something on the guideline that was not followed. Subfloor prep, expansion space, trowel notch sizes, relative humidity, temperatures, pH of the concrete. I mean, all those different things, expansion space, all those different things are the kind of things that are in the guideline that need to be followed. And that's the kind of things that when we go out and look at a floor, we're judging, the complaint and the claim, and determining whether or not, the guideline met what was needed for that particular claim.
So you're saying what I'm hearing is that you have methods, you have ways to find out if manufacturer specifications were followed or not, whether it's trowel notch size, whether it's moisture in the concrete, whether it's allowing the material to acclimate. That's what I'm hearing here.
Well, not exactly. Not exactly. So obviously, when an inspector goes in, you're going in after the fact, right? So unless you're allowed to do or requested to do uh, destructive testing, some of those things you're not going to absolutely know with certainty. So there are some things, like, just as an example, subfloor flatness, right? Well, there's not any certain way to determine, subfloor flatness over an installed floor. It's too late. It's beyond where I can definitively say the subfloor is or is not, out of tolerance. So there's some things that an inspector, they can make a judgment and say that the condition is consistent with, let's say a subfloor out of flat. Maybe the measurements we take over the top of the installed floor, you have a 5/16 inch dip within 10 feet. Okay. And, and the floor, let's say it's a luxury vinyl plank floor, and the end joints are breaking and there's deflection in those areas, right? So while you can't conclusively give a reading of what the subfloor was because it's covered now, you can say that the issue that's occurring, the claim that's you're being called to take a look at, is consistent with the subfloor flatness issue or deflection issue.
I think it makes it easier a little bit, maybe with like sheet vinyl and glue down LVTs and stuff like that, because they kind of conform to the floor, so you can actually get some better readings. But when you're talking like homes where it's the rigid core, the WPCs and what have you, where I mean it's bridging gaps, right?
You can, on some floors, you can be, more certain than others. And you can also weight down areas so that if there is an area that's raised up, you can push it flat to the subfloor, and then take your readings that way and have a more accurate reading.
Okay.
So what?
Did you
Hmm?
want to
Go
mind
ahead.
me to pop up that PowerPoint that you had at any point?
Yes.
I can put that on.
So I think you guys, it should be on now. Yes. I'm showing that I'm sharing it. There we go. Okay. So yeah, we're going to go through a few slides here. And for those of you who are interested, at the end of this, I'm going to be offering a free book, which is it's a $250 book. It's 4 pounds, the Ultimate Carpet Manufacturing Inspection and Claims Training Manual. So at the end of this presentation, we're going to go through about 30 slides. And what if you want to have the chance to win the book, you basically just have to write down the name of what you see in the picture. And we're going to be looking at some various claims, pictures of what the claim looks like, and then just jot down the name. And then can we give my email address out? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So my email address is flooring inspections, that's plural, at gmail.com. And just email me your answers, and the top person who's got the most correct answers, I will email you back, and you'll send me your address, and I'll send you a copy of the book. All right, so let's take a look here. We'll try not to spend too much time on this, but we'll just go through a few things, and then if there's questions, we can answer those. All right, so we've already talked a little bit about my experience and whatnot, so we won't go too much into this. And this is actually a presentation I did for the CCA Global Convention. I usually go there almost every year, sometimes every couple of years, and they'll have 100 or 200 people in the claims training room, and we'll go through some different things from a training standpoint. So what is Floor Detective? We're going to talk a little bit about Floor Detective. Floor Detective does 4 main things. We have a master list of all certified inspectors from every certification. We've also incorporated an online claims reference or defect library. We have nearly 250 defects or claim reference pages, 1 defect or claim per page. So if you want to learn about buckling or cupping or checking or any number, delamination, any number of things, this is an extensive library that I've been putting together since 2009. And we have over 50 expert contributors that have either peer reviewed or provided their expertise to add their voices to the pages for accuracy purposes. So, there are manufacturers, in fact, that subscribe to Floor Detective just so their claims analysts can have access to the online claims reference library or the defect library. And then we've developed a state-of-the-art report writing program for inspectors. There's really nothing out there like it. It is, we've been working on this for about 6 years now, and it incorporates a industry standards library, defect library, and a state-of-the-art report writing program. And then for manufacturers, we've developed a claims management system. So my largest client is Mohawk, and they use the system. It allows them to commission inspectors through the system and receive reports back through the system. So we've put a lot of development time between my developers and their developers into that. And other manufacturers such as Mulliken, Southwind, Dixie Group, some of these other companies also use the system as well. Okay, so the list of companies or people who use Floor Detective: dealers, manufacturers, inspectors, and homeowners. And the way homeowners use it is we have an extensive list of inspectors. We list every inspector from every certification. We're very high in the Google SEO search. So when somebody needs an inspector, Floor Detective is usually right up at the top of the search area. And so the homeowner or the dealer, they will search for an inspector. They'll put in their zip code or their address or their city. They'll search out 50, 100 miles, and then all the local inspectors in their area will pop up. So we'll pass this one here, but it just basically gives you some information about what dealers can use the site for. The visual defect library is invaluable to for the dealers and for the installers who work for them. I have one very large dealer out of Ohio that uses it, and they have their installers, and they have a lot of installers. They have their installers come in, and every day the installers will spend 10 minutes a day going through some of the defect pages just so that they're familiar with the claims that are being filed. We cover probably 95% of the most common claims that inspectors go out to take a look at in our defect library. So it's really important from an installer standpoint that if you do, get called back out to go look at a claim or a problem, you don't want to just wing it. You want to know what you're looking at. And our visual library within Floor Detective allows you to associate, what the issue is called. So now you're going to sound very intelligent when you're talking about the claim, and also photographs of what the issue looks like. And we'll go through a little bit of that. As I mentioned, Floor Detective defect pages are peer reviewed. I know that's extremely small, but we have about 50 peer reviewers. These are experts in the industry, everything from manufacturers, technical people, laboratories like professional testing labs, inspection trainers, high-end inspectors. We've got a laundry list of some of the best inspectors throughout North America. All right, so let's talk about inspectors. Inspectors are the eyes and ears of what the documenter is looking for. They help basically the party that is commissioning them understand what's going on with the claim so that they can come to a resolution or make a decision. So the
Now when
inspectors hired.
you're saying like they're working for someone, right? Because I think a lot of installers are always on the end of it where they like the person that they're working for just kind of calls them up and then they send someone. But I don't think a lot of people know that you can actually hire your own inspector, even if you don't like the results that came through.
You can. And we're going to get into that just a little bit too. So, an installer can hire an inspector, a manufacturer can, a dealer can, an attorney can, an insurance company. Um, Anyone can hire an inspector. The inspectors that you're going to find in Floor Detective, in our inspector list, they're all independent, non-biased, third-party inspectors. Okay. They are supposed to be non-biased. Hopefully they are being non-biased. That is what they're, some of the inspection schools I've been through, you have to raise your right hand and swear you're going to be a non-biased third party. So hopefully everybody is abiding with that. I know, the knock on inspectors is, they're just going to side with whoever the commissioning party is. You know what? If that's been your experience, I apologize on behalf of the inspector community. The better inspectors, and I know who they are, they abide by the they abide by the non-biased part of what they're supposed to be doing. But all inspectors should be non-biased, and they are searching for the truth and the facts and not worried about who the commissioning party is. And it's got to work that way because, if I get hired by a manufacturer or I get hired by a dealer or an installer, you know, that report has got to be the same regardless of the commissioning party. Okay. And I'm going to run into that installer at some point, and I don't want them looking at me sideways like, oh, you always side with the manufacturer. Inspectors should side with the facts and the truth. And that's really all they should ever worry about. They should not worry that they're not going to get more work because they didn't side with their commissioning party. The better inspectors get work because they're honest, they're thorough, they know what they're doing, and they're non-biased. And so that's, any inspectors on this call, I mean, that's the way you should run your business. And I'm sure 99% of you are. So the inspector is hired by one party, and so they have no obligation to give their findings to any other party. That being said, the report still needs to be a non-biased report. It's up to the commissioning party to provide that report to any other parties. So the inspector, when they go out and let's say the installer is there or the dealer is there, and let's say the inspector was hired by the manufacturer, and the installer or dealer has questions, you're often, I mean, almost always you're going to find the inspector is going to let you know that they're not allowed to, basically talk about their inspection as far as their findings go. It doesn't mean the inspector shouldn't be professional, courteous, put on booties or take their shoes off or whatever method they do. All these things are very important from a professionalism standpoint. But the same would apply if, let's say, an installer hired the inspector, and let's just say that the manufacturer had a representative at the job site, and the manufacturer started asking the inspector questions, but they weren't the commissioning party, the installer was. The same rule applies. The inspector is only allowed to provide their information to the commissioning party, unless, of course, the commissioning party authorizes them, and then they can. But until that time, it's the property of the commissioning party to do with or not to do with whatever they want with that report. So an inspector should have an eye for detail, necessary training, the ability to separate fact from fiction. Now that's important because, when you get to an inspection, people are telling you a whole lot of different things. Some are true and some maybe aren't true, because whoever, let's say a consumer is saying, oh, that tear in the carpet or those snags in the carpet, they were there immediately after the installer left, right? And it's fine for an inspector to listen to all of that and even put it in the claim history part of the report, saying, Mrs. Smith said that these snags were in the carpet immediately after the installer left. Okay, it's fine for that, but it doesn't mean
That sounds
it doesn't
familiar,
mean it's a
actually.
true statement. It doesn't mean it's true. The homeowner they may just want what they want, and they're willing to, stretch the truth, so to speak. So the inspectors can listen to all that, but they have to, be able, from a diagnostic standpoint, determine whether that is fact or fiction, right? And a good inspector can typically make a determination like that, as far as whether the homeowner or the installer, for that matter, the installer may say, yeah, we put 6 mil poly over the concrete, right? And it may not be true. So the inspector has to use their training and knowledge to try and deduce what the facts are versus the fiction.
So
Um,
do you have a questionnaire for the installer versus the manufacturer or retailer, or is there a different series of questions that you would go through and
um,
ask individual parties?
so I don't have a written list of questions per se. Typically, if I let the vast majority of the times the installer is not there during the inspection. Now, that being said, I would recommend, it's in the installer's best interest, if they can be on the inspection, even though the inspector may not be able to talk to them if the installer didn't hire them. It's definitely to the installer's advantage and best interest to be there. Not to look over the shoulder necessarily, but just, I love when installers show up at the job site. That way I can ask them my questions that I have for them. I'm going to ask them things about acclimation and moisture testing and, different things that I want to know. But I mean, I have a checklist, but I kind of have it in my brain. And so I just use the one in my brain, and I take notes when I get there, since I've done so many of these. Now, sometimes if the installer or dealer were not present, I will email them, depending on what the claim is. I will email them and ask them to provide information on, certain questions that I might have. And that way it's all in writing as well. All right. So the inspector should have the ability to conduct a fair, non-biased inspection, keep their mouths shut when appropriate, be courteous, as I said. Don't start opening bedroom doors that you weren't, that are closed when you get there. Just be courteous to people, because you don't want to add any more aggravation to a consumer who's possibly already upset about a situation, and they may think the inspector's coming in there and is planning on being one-sided. You never know what a consumer is going to think as well. So you just show your professionalism, and regardless of the outcome, at least they can say you were professional. All right, certified does not equal qualified. There's inspectors who just got certified last week, but it doesn't mean that they, have tons of knowledge and experience. That comes with, time, education, training, and, doing a great number of inspections. I really would not want to go back and look at the inspection reports I wrote back in, the late 90s or early 2000s. I might be embarrassed by, what I wrote because of my lack of experience. But over time, I think I've gotten better, and that's the goal. Is we're all trying, whatever our trade is, we all should be trying to get better at it. Previous work experience, as far as inspectors, could be installation, manufacturing, cleaning, sales, retail owner, laboratory. Inspectors may be newly certified, as I just mentioned, or they might have little or no experience or anywhere in between. Okay, these are the different parties that typically will employ an inspector: manufacturers, retailers, consumers, builders, contractors, installers, insurance companies, lawyers. My own personal business, I would say I probably get commissioned 50% by manufacturers, and all the other ones make up the other 50%.
How
These
much?
are some of the certified. Yes,
How
sir.
much of that percentage would you say would be the installer base? And I only ask because it is a resource for installers as well. And if we as
Absolutely,
installers are not
absolutely,
using it as a resource, then we need to start maybe getting better at that. Maybe educate ourselves as to what is
absolutely.
available. So what do you think
Yeah,
the percentage is? Is it minimal?
yeah. My own, again, I can only speak for my own personal,
Right.
and you might get something different from, Jason Ramsey. I know you guys know him, or any of the other inspectors out there. Um, my own personal percentage, I probably get hired. Maybe 5% of my inspections are installers. Maybe not quite that high,
Cool.
but keep in mind, there's a tendency for a party to not want to have to pay for an inspection. So the reason why it's so high for manufacturers is because they've kind of taken on that role as the party who's going to normally hire an inspector in most cases. Some of the other parties that hire us may be the result of, a report that did not go the way that either the dealer or the installer thought it should go, and so that's why maybe a second opinion is needed, or maybe they don't trust that they're going to get a good result from letting, the manufacturer or the dealer, so they'll hire us directly that way. So there can be reasons, because inspections are not inexpensive. They can be expensive, and they vary as far as, well, what does an inspection cost? It can vary from one inspector to another. Um, some are, some are half of what others are, or a third of what others are. Um, Depending on how experienced and in demand an inspector is, and how good their reports are and how trusted they are, they may command a higher inspection fee. But each inspector, it's their own individual business, kind of like an installer. You charge whatever your charge is based on what you can get or what you're worth or what people will pay you in order to keep yourself in business. So these are some of the different inspector certifications that we have listed within Floor Detective. And this basically covers pretty much all the different groups who certify inspectors that I'm aware of, at least. All right. So, and if anybody ever wants information on how to become an inspector, just reach out to me. I'm happy to give you my thoughts on that. So to find an inspector in Floor Detective, this is free. There's no charge for doing this. So you go to floordetective.com and you click on Find an Inspector. You'll notice here there's a map, and above the map there is an area to put in the city. The next middle box there, which is a drop down, is what type of inspector are you looking for? Maybe you're looking for an NWFA hardwood inspector, or maybe you're looking for an LVT inspector, or somebody who does side match corrections like I do, or LVT inspector. So you can select what type of inspector or repair service you're looking for. And then you can search out anywhere from 50 miles to, I think it goes up to 500 miles. And so depending on
Oh,
how
it goes
far out
further
you
than that.
search,
I was just looking at Australia. There was one person in Australia.
yeah, we have somebody in Australia. Um, yes, we do. So when you search, it'll give you how many all the inspectors in your mileage search will pop up, and you will see that they have either, actually, since I did this presentation, we've changed our colors. We have gold banners, silver banners, and bronze banners. That really doesn't mean anything as far as the qualifications of the inspectors. It just means it kind of is on our end. It shows us who's a different level of subscription, because these inspectors, we give, any inspector can have a free listing on our site. So we list every inspector from every certification, whether they pay us a fee or not. The ones who have a gold banner, they are ultimate subscribers. In other words, they have access to all the tools in Floor Detective, the defect library, the report writer. Our silver banner, they have access to our defect library, and the bronze banner, they just get a free listing on the site. All right, so that's how the find an inspector works. Once you find an inspector you want, and you can see that's my listing here in Phoenix, you can click on the little request inspection button at the bottom, and a form will pop up, and you'll be able to fill out the form. You're going to be able to put in the customer name, address, phone number, dealer information, product information. You can even attach installation guidelines or anything you want to the inspection request, and then you hit the send button in the request form. That will send the inspector a request. Now, we're a conduit for that, but we have nothing to do with the commissioning. We don't get paid on any of this stuff. It's all a deal between whoever's commissioning the inspector and the inspector themselves. So it's kind of a free service where we allow people who want to commission inspectors, we give them a form they can fill out to commission the inspector. And then the inspector will get that email, and they'll communicate back to the commissioning party and work out, pricing or whatever else they're going to do. And then they'll go out and do the inspection. All right, so that's how you access Floor Detective. So our defect online reference library, this is part of our subscription. Now, as I mentioned, we have about 2,000 plus dealers who subscribe to this to have access to all these pages, which are just a wealth of knowledge of what causes different various flooring problems and things that you need to know. So what you do, first of all, if you are not currently a subscriber and you want to be, if you're either a dealer or installer, you would just click on the register button at the top, to the right of that little red arrow, and you can register, and then you can select which subscription you want. Our subscription for that group of people is $125 a year. For inspectors, it's $295 a year. Now, inspectors can have and the inspector with the $295, that gives them access to everything. The inspectors can also subscribe to our premium listing, which is also $125 a year. That gives them the defect library. Okay,
Now, is it
so you would
beneficial
subscribe.
to subscribe under multiple hats? Inspector, installer, dealer, retailer. Is it blanketed,
No,
or is there a different kind of way to utilize that?
if you're an inspector and an installer, you can subscribe as an inspector, and we will also give you a free listing as an installer. Our installer database is very, very small right now. At some point, we'll start adding installers where people can find an installer as well. We don't have that, maximized right now. So at some point, we will do more of that. We're working. My developer works on things for us every day, and we're always working on something. And so that will be more robust at some point. But if you're an inspector and an installer, then subscribe as an inspector. If you're an installer, you can subscribe either as an installer. Actually, yeah, you would just subscribe as an installer. And if you're a company that wants to subscribe, and you don't care about having an installer listing, then just subscribe as a dealer.
Okay.
That'd be the best way to do that. All right, so the defect pages have 84 common carpet claims. They're in alphabetical order. I've just got a little screenshot here of all the pages. And so what happens is when you're on the carpet defect library, and let's say you've got an issue with snags, so you would find snags in alphabetical order, and you would click on the picture, and it's going to open up the page with the snag. It's also going to have information. First of all, you can see below those dogs, there's a bunch of little dots underneath the picture there, and those are how many pictures we have related to snags on the website. So there's probably 15 or more pictures that all deal with snags. So you'll be able to see what snags look like in multiple settings, and then the detail below the picture talks about the causes, what you need to know, information about woven carpet, other factors, field testing if you're an inspector. So it's just a wealth of information. 23 common resilient SPC. I think we've added a few more since I did this presentation. Things like cupping and curling and delamination and ski lift, all sorts of things there. 35 common laminate claims, 48 common wood claims. Also, we have partnerships with different groups like the NWFA. They allow us to use, so we not only have our information, the NWFA, which is National Wood Flooring Association, allows us to use their technical reference manuals and whatnot, which help us bolster some of the information in our claims pages for hardwood. Also for tile, we have a partnership with the National Tile Contractors Association, and they allow us to use their reference material for anything that we want additional material that we didn't already have. So just as an example, let's say you have an issue with slivers and splinters on a hardwood job. So again, you can see below the pictures, there's about 12 or 15 pictures of splinters that will show up when you're on the website, and then the information about the problems, causes, cures type thing to help you understand that issue. And honestly, to be able to talk more intelligently with your consumer. If you're a dealer or an installer, you need to be able to speak, not just wing it. You need to be able to speak intelligently about issues that your consumer is complaining about. I can't tell you how many times I'll go out and I'll start talking to the consumer about whatever claim, and they'll say, well, the installer was out here and he said XYZ, and it was just made up information. And so this allows you to have real factual information. So report writing tools for inspectors. This is just showing you our report cover, but you can see our state-of-the-art report writing program is used by about 300 inspectors to complete their inspection reports.
Now, the inspection reports that you guys utilize, is that a universal language? Could it be utilized for more than one manufacturer? Or do you still use the one they provide for you?
No, this report system is a system we actually created. I actually created this system. So inspectors go into Floor Detective. Let me give you a quick share of this screen here.
Sorry for all the questions here, but I'm just trying to
No, that's what it's all about. Share, there we go. Share my screen again. Bear with me as I find whichever screen I'm sharing.
Who are those guys right there on the site?
You'll have to, those are models.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm actually navigating the website with you as you're going along. That's why I'm staring at the other screen. I'm trying to keep up with you because this is my first time navigating through it, and it's fairly easy.
Yeah, so when you log into Floor Detective, so we were just on the defect pages. So, and here's our little photo app that we've created called FD Photo. That will pop up for about 10 seconds unless you hit the X. So we were just on the defect pages. So here, when you go to defects, so let's just go to hardwood just as an example. So you'll go and it's in alphabetical order. So let's just say that you have a issue with color change. Your customer says, hey, I just moved my rug and the color isn't the same anymore, or it's different in the closet. So this shows you what does color change look like. So these boards here were actually left in a closet. They weren't exposed to any sunlight or environmental conditions. This had a rug over the top of it right here. So this stayed dark and the area around the rug turned lighter. And this will tell you what you need to know. It also has some industry standards from the NWFA. Some of our pages, we even have our little AI model who will narrate it for you.
This is pretty awesome, actually.
So that's how that works. And then, if you go to carpet, as I mentioned, there's about 84 common carpet claims here. So let's say you have a buckling carpet. I'm sure no installer has ever been called back to restretch a buckling carpet. So you've got all kinds of pictures below. And what you need to know, other factors, field testing, industry standards from the Carpet and Rug Institute. There's my little AI model again. Laminate, swelling edges, that used to happen all the time. I'm not seeing too much of that nowadays, but pet urine, moisture and whatnot, infiltrating the
Scott
core.
says that it's a great site and it's so easy. A caveman like him can use it. And then Kevin asks if our inspectors actually testing the flooring to see if it passes standards, and does it seem fair that the people writing the standards are the same people manufacturing the flooring? So I guess his question is like, do you guys actually take that flooring and inspect it, not just the site conditions, right, but the actual flooring materials itself?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, it's a case to case thing, right? Different flooring, can be tested or not be tested. We're typically in the majority of situations, we're doing field testing of the material. We are not a laboratory, so we're not doing any ASTM testing or anything like that as an inspector on the site or with the material itself. If that is necessary, that is a case where we would send information in, send the material into like an independent laboratory. Like for instance, the particular lab I use is Professional Testing Labs out of Dalton, Georgia. They're great. They've done many things for me through the years. So in a case like that, yeah. So we can do moisture testing, get field readings and whatnot. But we're not doing ASTM testing in those cases where if it needs it, we're going to send that material in for manufacturers to test it, or for the laboratory. I'm sorry, for the laboratory to test it. In some cases, though, depending on who commissions us, let's say a manufacturer commissions us, they may want to test it themselves, so they'll ask us to send the material in, or they'll send it to an independent lab because all manufacturers don't have their own laboratories. So it varies from one case to the next. All right. So that is a little bit about the defect library. Also have tile and stone and luxury vinyl.
You got some
And
great pictures
then
on here, and a lot of pictures that explain very common failures, and even if I'm not in the flooring industry and I found out about this website, it can help me troubleshoot some of my issues as a homeowner, as a consumer. It explains a little bit more than what I thought it would.
yeah, we put a lot, and I do mean like thousands and thousands and thousands of hours and dollars into developing the site. Um, and consequently, we do get some really good reviews from people using it. As far as the
I
inspection report part
I was
of the system,
gonna
I'm sorry.
we got one more thing because I was waiting for Kevin to say something. He says, "What about part two of his question? If it's
Repeat.
is it fair that the same people that are writing the standards are the same people that manufacture the flooring?"
So when he says writing the standards, which standards are we talking about? If we're talking about like
ASTM.
ASTM, I mean, those are committees. And so if you have, I'm not on any, well, I am on a committee, but I have not participated in that part of it. So those committees are open for membership. So you could certainly join and help give
There you
your
go.
perspective on things as they're developing their standards. But they are committees. They're typically comprised of people from all aspects of the industry, not just manufacturers.
Well, I think you
So
just kind of answered the question a little bit there. You said developing their standards, right? So they're the ones creating the materials and testing them in the manner in which they feel necessary for the environment and which they're going to get installed. So, I mean, it makes sense, but I think any changes in literature or any changes in the product without making the public aware it might be one of those items where it might be considered unethical, I guess. So if they write the standards, they're writing
yeah,
it
I mean,
to what they're testing, I guess.
I can't really speak to that at all because, like I say, I have not participated in the ASTM part of it. I understand the concern. Maybe there's somebody out there more knowledgeable than myself about, how that process works. So it's one of those things like if I'm not part of it and participating in it, I don't want to, really comment on something that I'm not part of. So I'm going to leave that for others to discuss. But just, from a inspector stand or from a, rather from an installer standpoint, you know, the biggest thing is following the installation guidelines. Some of the standards that are going to be in the installation guidelines are going to be, like moisture testing and the methodology of that, not necessarily the testing of the material itself and how it's supposed to conform to, slippage, uh, dynamic coefficient for slippage and whatnot, things like that are within some of those standards. But like I say, those are committees that you can join and become part of and have a voice and counter disagreement you might have to try to get your point implemented. But that is beyond my knowledge, so I'm going to kind of leave that one alone.
He said Kevin will be on another committee, Scott says.
Excellent. Is that a Kevin I know?
Kevin Keith,
I don't know, Kevin.
he's with
Okay, so
Roberts QEP.
gotcha. All right. As far as the reporting system, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I suspect we probably don't have a lot of inspectors here, but the inspector's dashboard, basically when they have an inspection to write, they're going to open up the report system. They're going to select what type of report they want to write the report in. So we have 9 different forms they can write the report in. So let's just say I'm doing a hardwood and it's going to be a detailed report. So I'm going to select my report form. And then I have 4 bullets up here of general information, history, indoor environment, observations, and comments. So my general is going to have things like claim number, inspection dates, commissioning party information, homeowner information, manufacturer's information, dealer information, installer information, general contractor, product, style, color, rooms installed, square foot, species, you name it. Property information. So this is kind of how the report system works. History and maintenance. The inspector will be able to put cleaning information in, indoor environment, temperature, humidity.
I don't think
Um,
the actual screen on here, it's been the same for a while, is actually updating to what you're looking at.
really? Okay. I'm glad you told me that. All
Yeah,
right.
Daniel's got
Let's
better
see
eyes.
if
Oh, there he
There we
goes.
changes.
go.
Okay. Okay. So what I did, thanks for telling me that. What I did is I created new. So as an inspector, when I'm writing a report, I'm going to click on new inspection and I'm going to click on what type of report I want to write. So is it a carpet? Is it a hardwood? Is it resilient? Laminate, tile, NWFA? So in this case, I'm going to select a hardwood report. Yeah, if my screen doesn't keep up with the presentation, just holler because I get going pretty fast. And again, they'll put inspection details, commissioning party, homeowner, manufacturer, dealer, all that contact information, product information, style, color, quantity, species, you name it. Statement of concern. What's the floor doing? That will go here. Cupping, delamination, finish, peeling, whatever it may be. Property information, buildings, all these things the inspector will fill out. Building occupancy. They can even put if it's new construction, a closing date, move-in date, that sort of thing. Then they go to section 2, which is history and maintenance. And they can put in their cleaning information, products used, steam mop used, do-it-yourself, professional. Then here, section 3, they can put in temperature, humidity, moisture readings, that they were given by the installer or build or a dealer. Foundation, what type of foundation? So if they select slab, it's going to change their information that they fill in. If they select basement, and so on. So they'll fill in all this information, underlayment information, 6 mil poly or equivalent. Then they go to the actual part where they start writing the report. And here they can tell the commissioner if they're sending samples, they can put their shipping company in, claim history information. Now you'll notice this little sidebar populating. This is a user controlled industry standard library that the users can create their own industry standard library within our system. They do it up here at the top. So I've created in my library kind of a cheat sheet for claim history. So if I click on that, I can just fill in the blank. Mr. and Mrs. Smith were present. They stated the following: the flooring was installed, in January 2025. They noticed cupping 6 months after installation. The floor is cleaned by, so on. Observations and tests, physical description and comments, rather. So here, the inspector can go ahead and complete the report, type in, bullets, things like that. Or if they have anything in their industry standard library that they've saved, they could pop it in here like a EMC chart or any number of other things. They can just pop it in, whatever they have saved in their library. And for anybody who wants training on this, I am more than happy to jump on a private call with you and do training on it as well.
Uh,
Applicable field tests.
I was gonna say, I mean, a lot of what we talked about today is just, focused on the floor detective, which is awesome. I mean, it's a great resource, but I mean, how much of inspecting is actually doing what you're showing here versus the on-site stuff?
Yeah, I got you. So thank you. So we're just going to end this part here. So this is how I kind of wanted to give you a glimpse of how the inspector completes their inspection report. Okay. So that is information on how the inspector completes the report. All right. So let me stop that share. And
hey, just to forewarn you guys, I do got to take off here shortly. We got our first team practice today. So, and to
okay.
add on to Daniel's question after this, because I'll probably be gone by the time you get to it, is once your installer base grows, is there going to be a list or a series of to-dos or what to look for and how to come up with a list while you're doing the installation, so that way you have your installer information and project information listed correctly for an inspector if it were to come to that. That's it. You can answer that later on if there's time.
Okay. All right. You might have to summarize that for me because I'm not sure, 100% sure I got what you want. All right. So let's go to the, and I know we're probably running out of time here. So here's our little test. If you want to participate, write down your answers if you want to have a chance to get a copy of that book.
There's
There's 30.
there's nothing on the screen.
Thank you again.
Oh man, this is gonna be hard too because we're not able to explain this, right? You kind of want people to come to their own conclusion about it for the emails.
I want them to write down um, one or two words of what the picture is that they're seeing on the screen, what they would call it. And just trying to see why this is not showing up here. Window, there we go. Found it. Window. Is anything on the screen?
No, I don't think it likes you today.
Okay. Let's try it one more time. Okay.
I tried to report my.
Well, I know what I'm going to
question.
do. I'm going to share the entire window, entire screen.
Let me see if that works.
Can you tell me if it's sharing the entire screen?
No, I don't think it's gonna let us anymore. But
Okay.
Dang
that's why you
restream.
gotta love software, right?
Radio. Um,
Oh, gentlemen,
Try
I got to
one
check
more
out.
thing
So
here.
I'll see you guys later. Sorry to ditch you, Daniel.
Okay,
Thank
we're
you
going
for
to try
joining
one
us
more
this week,
time.
David. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. All right, we're going to try one more time. And if that doesn't work, then, oh, there we go. I think that's it. We have
There
it.
we go.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so let's get down to understanding. Okay, I'm going to pass this. Okay, here we go. So write down what you would call each of these things. It's 30. We're going to go very quick. You're going to have about 5 seconds per picture to write it down. Number one, what would you call this condition going on in this photo? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Number two, not too many of you are going to know this unless you sat in one of my classes. This is carpet. This is happening close to a wall. What would you call these little indentations?
The only reason I know that is because I've seen you present on it before.
All right. Hardwood floor. What would you call this condition? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Carpet. What would you call this condition? This is correctable, believe it or not. Well, you should believe it. Steaming, pile lifting, as long as it's nylon. All right. The carpet color is around the perimeter edges here. And this condition in the middle of the photo, taking up most of the picture, what do you call that? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This condition occurs perpendicular to the flow of traffic, as you can see in the second photo. It even crosses from one color to the next. What is
Thing
that
that
called?
looks kind of cool. I kind of want carpet that looks like that.
There you go. This is a laminate floor. These edges are doing something. What is it? What are they doing? All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a hardwood floor. Got a piece of wood sitting on top. What do you call that condition of the floor that's installed below the one that's sitting on top of it? 5,
Looks
4,
like
3, 2, 1.
looks like they need a new floor to me.
We've got some darkness going around the edges and underneath the where the door was closed. What's that called? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you guys are able to write this fast. What is this condition here? And it's the same thing that's going on. You can see I put a piece of leftover carpet on top of the installed carpet, and we have this dark and light area. What would you call this? And I'll just say there's no seams in that carpet. All right. This one, I'll be surprised if you get. What is this condition called? These are widthwise going across uniform, going across the width of the carpet. It's not cornrowing. I'll just say it's a manufacturing issue. What's it called?
And it just looks
All right.
like a half-inch pattern in the carpet to me.
It's not. That carpet is not supposed to have those lines. All right. This is a carpet along the edge. I've got a little carpet all stuck in between layers. What's this called? What's the carpet doing? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Common claim. Not, I don't see it as much nowadays. What is this condition called? And I will just tell you that, like looking at this top left-hand picture, the areas that look dark, if you go stand on the opposite side and look back across from the other direction, these areas will look light. They don't always look dark. Depending on where you stand, the dark and light will change. What's the name of this? Okay, this is a carpet that was installed that is not a seam, and this condition occurs when is noticeable. Usually it starts showing up shortly after installation, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 months after. And especially when strong lighting coming through the window is striking across. What is this called, or what caused it? This is at a seam. What is this called? Carpet on one side looks different than the other. What is that called? Okay, hardwood. What is this called? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think we're more than halfway through. These are kind of yellowish brown spots. Cause or called? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Putting a little water on these spots and agitating. What is that called?
And these are actually like issues with it. It's not just like that right there looks like someone dropped some soap and then you just added some water and then it started foaming up.
Good point. Good point. But if I tell you, then it's giving it away. And okay, this is a residue from trying to clean a spot.
Okay.
So soap residue from somebody trying to clean a spot. Put a little
Like
water on it and agitate
right,
it, and
like
it'll generate a.
they probably spilled something and then tried to clean it up and
They try
then
to
tried
clean it.
to
Yeah. Okay. So you got one freebie there.
got a freebie.
Hardwood floor. This is visible with light striking across the floor. What is this called? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hardwood floor. This is like a little loose flap. What is this called? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the top veneer of an engineered hardwood floor. You have two conditions going on here. One of them is here. This is the glue. Okay, so that's so if you fold that over, this will be on top of this over here on the right. And then this is another condition here. So that's it's doing two things. All right. So you can give me one or both if you know them. All right. This is at a seam. What is this called? Hopefully not at any of your seams. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What are these guys doing? This is in a hardwood manufacturing facility. What is this job called? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is this called? It's a loop pile carpet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a SPC floor. What is this condition called? There's really only one, but I'll take two answers on that. All right, here we go. This is a tile floor. What is this condition called? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another tile floor. What is this floor? What is this condition
And
doing right here?
and all these just give a glimpse into what you guys have to deal with on a daily basis, huh?
These are all things that we have to go out and diagnose. Okay. So if you put on our hat for a minute, um, you know, there's a lot to think about and test and determine and read and whatnot to be able to put together a logical report that can pass muster and is accurate. Um, these three boards here are uninstalled boards sitting on top of an installed floor. As you can see, the uninstalled material does not have the same condition that the installed material has. And this is a new home. What is this condition called? This lighter condition. And 99% of these photographs are all real photographs from my own personal inspections. This is a SPC floor installed over a wood floor that's glued down to concrete. Well, we already gave the answer away here. It's written below the picture, so there's another freebie. What is this? What are we doing here? This is just distilled water. This is a little area here. This is after taking the tape off. Same with this. This is before taking the tape off and doing the same thing with the water here, taking the tape off. What are we doing here? All right, so that is our little test. Again, my email address is flooringinspections, that's plural, @gmail.com. So I'm going to open it up to any other questions because I know we're over time here.
Oh yeah, and I think just those pictures alone, I think it was great to see, what you guys actually have to deal with, right? Because we see things like this all the time too as installers, but typically we're always going in there to hey, we're ripping this up because it looks like this, not trying to diagnose exactly what's happened. But I think that's the misconception, right? Is that installers, we don't, no one looks at us like we need to go in there and figure out what's going wrong. But at the same time, if we're not going in there saying, hey, this is happening, what's going on with this before I put a new flooring down, then we're already falling behind because it could just end up doing the same thing anyways.
Yeah, and I think, just like inspectors, we as inspectors, we need to raise the bar in our own industry to the highest level we can be. And installers need to do the same thing. Installers need to raise the bar, be as educated as possible, so that when you go into a situation where there is a claim or complaint, you're not deer in headlights, not being able to explain it to somebody you might need to be able to logically explain it to. So I think it's really important to from an education standpoint to learn as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. And I just want to pop this up here. We are having a giveaway next week. So, well, a giveaway, it's a raffle, right? Trying to support Denise for the passing of Dan Churchill that just happened recently. So we wanted to make sure that people are still giving them some love and making sure that they're showing up for the industry. He did a lot. So the least we can do is something back since he's no longer here. And, Denise, we're thinking about you every day and definitely reach out if there's anything we can do for you. Um, so this right here has it has some inspector tools in there too, so can play around with those. But inspectors, I think as an installer, when you don't know what you guys do, they kind of give you a bad rap. But once you get into the other side of things, when you're like, it's not always against the installer, right? You have to, there is those inspectors that are just trying to throw someone under the bus, right, and collect that check and on to the next one. But
Yep.
there's also some inspectors out there that take their job seriously, and we just have to let them do their job instead of always thinking that it's going to be against the installer. So we definitely, I know your job is an inspector's job isn't easy, right? There's a lot that goes into it, and as a flooring installer, I think that's one of the avenues that you have to look at as far as moving out of the installation and into inspection at some point, because your knees can only take so much. And I mean, I don't know, I'm not an inspector, so it has to be a little bit easier on your knees, right? You're not on your knees for 8 hours a day or anything.
Right, right. Yeah, and I've told this to dealers at some of the presentations that I've given, and I think the same is true for installers. Don't hesitate to introduce yourself to all the inspectors in your area. You've got a list of them. All you have to do is go to Floor Detective, and search your own area and see which inspectors pop up, and give them a phone call and introduce yourself, or meet them at Wendy's or something, and get to know. Because what that'll do is it'll enable you to find out who the really good ones are, who the ones who really are premium in your area, because that's a good person to know, and to just to at least have a rapport with. It's not like, it doesn't mean they're going to side with you if you did something wrong. They shouldn't. They should still, be non-biased. But I think being able to look somebody in the eye and know that they are truly a non-biased third party, you can kind of get a sense of somebody, and get to know them just a little bit, to help, peace of mind when you see their name on a report. It's like, oh yeah, I think that guy is legit. He's doing a good job for the industry, and he's doing a non-biased job. So
Right. And
don't
at
hesitate
the
to get
same
to know your
time, right?
inspectors.
Because we talk to inspectors over here, and Chad is
Yeah,
a regular on listener on the podcast, and
yeah,
he'll come over here, and that's the thing. It's I've never had to hire him for anything, but if I do, I know that he's one of the ones that I'd be like, yeah, I trust
yep,
you with this, and whether it's my fault or not, if it is my fault, let me know where we went wrong so that way I can correct it in the future.
yeah. Totally agree. Chad's a great guy, great inspector. I know him very well. And I've seen some of his stuff, and I know that he does. And the thing with Chad too is he comes from an installation background to begin with, so that's really a plus too, for an inspector who can put together a good report, who also came from an installation background. I think is a win-win, because he's been in your shoes. He knows what you're going through. He knows how it's supposed to be installed, and that gives him, a leg up on an inspector who maybe didn't ever have that experience to begin with, and had to learn it the hard way through, more time spent in the industry.
Yeah, so I mean, the more you guys can learn when you're installing, the better it's going to do for you in the long run anyway. So stop hiding them from the manufacturer recommendations and standards and stuff, and just start following them, because one day you're going to not be able to be on your knees, and you're going to have to look for something else to do, and you'll have all that knowledge behind you.
The other thing too is, don't procrastinate on when somebody calls and has an issue. Do not procrastinate on it. The sooner you can get out and at least look at it, the less heated your customer is going to be. But if they get put off for an extended period of time, that's just going to get them to the boiling point. So I say some things you can put to bed really quickly, and they may not even be an actual claim. And if you get out there quickly, you get a customer that is, much more receptive than one that had to wait 2 months and constantly phone calls that aren't answered and whatnot. So
Yeah,
take those seriously and get out there right away, and that'll actually reduce your claims.
absolutely. I mean, I had a call a couple weeks ago from a new client that we started working with, and it was, some carpet tiles that had it almost looked like half of them had a bunch of dirt on them. Like had something happened in manufacturing, but I took the call, and he was like, it's a few tiles. Will you come take care of this? I'm like, man, someone will be out there as soon as possible. Like a day later, we went and did it, and right after we did it, we start getting phone calls back like, hey, I like the way you guys work. You're not trying to hide from us. You're taking accountability and doing things in a timely manner. And that's all it takes sometimes, is just that little bit showing up, taking the
And
call.
your reputation is everything. You build your reputation by how you've done things in the past. When I had my carpet upholstery cleaning business in Michigan back in the 80s and 90s, we had a little whiteboard, and on our whiteboard, our motto was Bob. Okay, BOB. What does Bob mean? It means bend over backwards. And we still try to carry that through today. even with our inspection business, is we're on top of everything. We contact the customer right away. We get them scheduled right away. We get the report out right away, and we're professional every step of the way, from the time we answer the call to the time we get in the front door, and are respectful of everything there with the customers. And so those are very important things. So remember, BOB, bend over
BOB.
backwards.
And that's where we're gonna end this one. Thanks, guys. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. Thanks, David, for everything today. A wealth of information. If you guys need anything, if you can reach out to him, flooring solutions@gmail.com. And that's where you're also going.
Oh, wait.
What?
Flooring inspections at
Inspection. Sorry.
gmail.com.
Flooring inspection,
Because
not
somebody does
solution.
have Flooring Solutions, and they're not going to be too happy with everybody
Hey,
reaching out to them. So
email
Flooring
both of them
Inspections, make sure it's
flooring
inspections with an S, because there
with an
is
S.
somebody who has it without an S.
That's why I
And
said
then, of
solutions,
course,
because I was thinking about the
flooredetective.com as well.
S.
There you
But
go.
uh, you know, email them with your answers on those pictures. And thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Daniel, and thanks, everyone.